Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. As you probably know, here in the UK non-essential shops reopened on the 12th of April, and that meant that I was able to get out and about a bit more and go to charity shops, my local car boot sale and a record shop, and as a consequence of that I've managed to pick up 12 LPs in the last couple of weeks, all in mint condition or brand new. Nothing particularly collectible, I suppose, but they're all of some interest and worthy of showing on the channel. So I'll crack on, and the first one is Electric Light Orchestra Out of the Blue from 1977. Nice gatefold sleeve, of course. I'm hoping that shows up on the screen. And lyric inserts as well. And as I say, mint condition, and that was £1. And I think ELO were at their peak on that album. The side 3, Concerto for a Rainy Day, which concludes in Mr. Blue Sky, is just pop perfection, really. I also got 2 more ELO albums in the same shop. Eldorado, a symphony by the Electric Light Orchestra. That was a 1974 album, and a later one, and this is where the formula was starting to go wrong. What's it called again? Secret Messages. At my car boot sale last weekend, I picked up 3 country LPs. These were all in immaculate condition for a couple of pounds each. George Jones, this is a typical album that he recorded in the 1980s. You've Still Got a Place in My Heart. His albums, they do tend to get a bit boring by this point. There's only 10 tracks, produced by Billy Sherrill, all cover versions apart from one song written by George Jones, I'm Ragged But I'm Right. I also got the first album that Chet Atkins recorded for CBS Records in 1983. Now, is that the most boring LP cover you've ever seen? I think quite possibly it is, and the back isn't much better. But he was, of course, possibly the greatest country guitarist, and along with James Burton. So for £2, I'll have that. Of slightly more interest, I've got Ricky Skaggs' album Family and Friends, where he's joined by his father, his mother, his wife, some brilliant session musicians such as Peter Rowan, Jerry Douglas, and there's some just immaculate bluegrass music on this album, and it's a really makes you feel good. It's just a lovely atmosphere on this recording. And after that we've got this is from the car boot sale as well, Al Stewart, The Early Years. It's a single album but comes in a double sleeve, and it's a compilation of tracks from his first 3 albums, which were Bedsetter Images, Love Chronicles and Zero She Flies. You could query some of the song choices on here, and especially on a single album to include Love Chronicles, the track, which is 18 minutes long, and certainly by about 6 or 7 minutes you've had enough, really. So I can't really recommend this. You're better off trying to get the original pressings of the first 3 albums. Certainly here in the UK they did sell quite a lot, so you do see them cropping up in record shops and whatever. Not always in immaculate condition though. So, and moving on. Now this has been a real discovery in recent weeks. Richard Youngs. He's a absolutely prolific musician who's comes from Glasgow in Scotland. I think he's now in his mid-50s, and he's just been churning out the records. It's very difficult to categorize on the. This is, by the way, this is on Jaguar. It's brand new, sealed, and I got it in a sale for a very reasonable price. On the sticker on the front, it says a collection of neo-druid hymns and incantations from a master of minimalist composition, transcendence and poetry through repetition and the focus on the seemingly micro. Now then, if I hadn't already heard Richard Young's, I don't think I would have bothered picking this up, but he is absolutely fascinating. I picked up a CD recently, and I'll put that on another video on charity shop purchases, and I can hear influences in that of folk music, just in the tone of his voice. But what is great is how simple his performances are. He's a multi-instrumentalist, but he tends to concentrate on just one instrument on each track. So on the CD I bought, it's a guitar, and the repetition just hypnotizes you in the same way as Velvet Underground and the classical music, minimalist composers can put you into a sort of trance. He does the same thing, and I think he is absolutely fascinating. And it's another example of Jaguar discovering really unique artists. So I've not had a chance to listen to this one yet, but on the back of the sleeve it says he plays all the instruments, of course. He plays bass guitar, harmonica, organ, percussion, piano and synthesizer on this one. So I'm looking forward to listening to that. Another purchase from the car boot sale in mint condition. If it hadn't been in mint condition, I wouldn't have considered buying it, because this is the Small Faces when they reformed in the late 70s, and they're always going to be associated with the mod movement in London in the 60s and that image that they had then. So even by 1977, when this came out, it all looked a bit tired, especially when you're up against all the new punk rock bands that were coming out. If they'd maybe reformed when the mod revival was happening and played at some mod events, they might have had more success. But it's still quite good. I do like the inner sleeve, which has a photo of the band, and you should notice all of these. You've got. Right, I'll go across from here. So that's Ian McLagan, Steve Marriott, Kenny Jones, and on the left, it's not Ronnie Lane, it's Rick Wills. Ronnie Lane did join them when they started, when they decided to get back together, and he does contribute to the songwriting on one track on the album, which I'm just trying to find. Find it. But he decided to bail out before the album was recorded, and so they brought in Rick Wills, who I've mentioned on another of my videos fairly recently. He was on David Gilmour's first solo album, and he played with David Gilmour prior to Pink Floyd in a band called Joker's Wild. What I didn't mention in the earlier video is that my dad in the 1960s worked with Rick Wills, and this was obviously before he became a full-time musician. So I've always had a soft spot for anything that Rick Wills takes part in. So for that reason, and the fact it was a nice sleeve, I've picked it up. And also from the record shop, this has been reduced a couple of times, and it was only £7, brand new, sealed, so I had to get it. It's the Monkees Forever, 14 of their biggest hits, and it's on Rhino. I do have a minor issue with Rhino. I think it's fantastic how they've managed to rejuvenate interest in the Monkees right back to the 1990s when they first had access to their catalogue. The expanded editions of the original albums, the 2 box sets that have come out, some of the vinyl reissues have been lovely. the DVD box set that came out of all the TV series, which is it's incredible. But they have repackaged the well-known tracks too often, so as an album, it seems a pretty strange idea. Who wants yet again copies of I'm a Believer, Valerie, Pleasant Valley Sunday, Daydream Believer? They do manage to get one or two less obvious tracks on here. So for example, you do get She Makes Me Laugh, which it says is from the new album Good Times. So this came out in 2016 when the Good Times album came out, which got really good critical reception. So there's an interesting mix of material from the 60s and from their when they got back together with That Was Then, This Is Now's on there. But I wouldn't have paid decent money for this, but for £6.99, and it looks nice, and it's got a Rhino sticker on. So again, I've not opened it, so I don't know if there's anything interesting inside in the inner sleeve. Now this was a really good buy. This was from the same charity shop where I got ELO for £1. So this was £1. Best of the Saints, and this came out on a UK punk label in the mid-80s called Razor. And I was a little bit worried that these might be like new versions of the songs, but they've all been taken from the original recordings made by EMI Australia, and the first 3 albums by the Saints are perfection, really. I'm Stranded, Eternally Yours, and Prehistoric Sounds, and that's with the original lineup, and the tracks on this album are all taken from those 3 albums. The original lineup with Chris Bailey on vocals and the brilliant Ed Cooper on guitar, and that for me is the best lineup of the band. Ed Cooper left after this album, and it effectively became just a vehicle for Chris Bailey to release his material. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that for £1, and it is in mint condition. I know it's on black vinyl, but I'll just show you anyway so you can see. Is that picking up all right? I don't think it is, but anyway. And the final album I got, this is getting a bit of glare because it's in a shrink wrap. This is Dr. Feelgood and their 1977 album Be Seeing You. At this point, Wilko Johnson had left the band. He must have left in that year, because I did see Dr. Feelgood live in 1977, I think with Mink DeVille supporting, and I'm pretty sure Wilko Johnson was still in the band at that point. Anyway, they brought in John Jippo Mayo on lead guitar. I think the guitar playing is quite similar to Wilko's. He hasn't quite got the same technique of playing rhythm and lead guitar at the same time, which Wilko Johnson had copied off Mick Green anyway from Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. But it's a very good album, and I think it holds up better than a lot of punk records from that year. I seem to remember She's a Wind Up, that was a single, and 99 and a Half Won't Do. And if you know the TV program The Prisoner from 1967 with Patrick McGowan, they used some of the phrases and iconography from that. So on the back here, for example, you've got not the unicycle, but a penny farthing bicycle. Be Seeing You, that was a phrase that they used on the program. And it says here it's produced by Number 6 and engineered by Number 2. And so that's actually, it's an American pressing, which is slightly unusual for a British album. So I don't know if someone's brought that over from America. Why it would have been imported from America to the UK, I don't know. So as I say, nothing particularly collectible, I suppose, but I do like to buy only mint condition albums, so I was just so pleased that they were all in immaculate condition. Even though I've not cleaned the vinyl yet, they look perfect. um, I can cope with a little bit of damage on a sleeve, but they're all in immaculate condition. So hopefully I can find some more vinyl, and I'll also be posting a video in the next few days on my latest CD finds.